Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
My mother-in-law, Barbara, set out to derail my wedding, so I dismantled her reputation in return. The warning signs were clear from the moment James proposed, when Barbara demanded a hand in every decision. I crafted 3 impeccable weddings. For my daughters, she'd proclaim, ignoring that 2 of those unions collapsed in chaotic, costly divorces within 3 years. The 3rd daughter was already in couples counseling just 6 months into her marriage. James insisted Barbara had good intentions, and I was eager to begin our life together on good terms with his family. Looking back, the red flags were obvious from our first meeting. Barbara didn't view me as a future daughter-in-law, but as a rival. She dropped subtle digs, noting how James's past girlfriends were more tied to family traditions and hoping I wouldn't be one of those new-age brides who assumes they know best. I chalked it up to typical mother-in-law jitters, but I should have been more vigilant. Her sabotage began quietly, almost innocently, which made it all the more cunning. It started with the florist. Barbara accidentally gave them a garish, magenta color scheme instead of the soft coral I'd painstakingly selected after weeks of consideration. When I called to correct it, the florist was baffled. Mrs. Thompson was insistent on magenta roses and lilies, they said. She claimed the bride had a last-minute change of heart, wanting something bold to shine in photos. It took 45 minutes to clarify I'd never chosen magenta. The florist was mortified. She was so convincing, even saying you worried coral would look dull in pictures. I set up a password to secure my orders, but when I confronted Barbara, she played innocent. "Oh, sweetheart, I thought you mentioned magenta at our brunch last week. I was just trying to make your vision pop." Her gaslighting was so slick, I briefly doubted myself. Next came the catering debacle, a more intricate and pricey scheme. Barbara told the caterer I'd turned vegan, which I'm not. I'm a fan of a good ribeye and had specifically requested it for the menu. Instead, the menu was swapped to couscous salads, gourmet tofu platters, and an exorbitant quinoa pasta dish. In a panic, I called the caterer, and the chef explained, "Mrs. Thompson called yesterday, saying you'd embraced a plant-based lifestyle after watching a documentary on factory farming. She said you were too shy to admit you'd changed your mind." Barbara had cited specific documentaries and health stats. It took 3 calls and an extra deposit to restore the original menu. When I confronted her, she doubled down. "Lauren, I could have sworn James said you were exploring veganism. I just wanted to support your new path." She made me feel like I was overreacting for being upset about my menu being altered without consent. By the 3rd incident, I knew these weren't mistakes. Barbara gave the DJ a playlist of her favorite country hits, replacing the pop, indie, and sentimental songs James and I had spent weeks curating. Songs tied to our first date and relationship milestones. Everlong and Can't Help Falling in Love were swapped for Wagon Wheel and Jolene. The DJ was confused. "Mrs. Thompson said you'd reconsidered and wanted something traditional and family-friendly. She mentioned your great-aunt was devout and would be upset by modern music." My great-aunt had passed away 6 years ago and loved indie tunes. James confronted her, saying, "Mom, this is out of hand. Lauren's stressed enough." Barbara burst into theatrical tears. "I'm just trying to make it special. Your sisters let me handle their weddings, and they were gorgeous. I thought I'd lighten Lauren's load." She painted me as a frazzled bridezilla, and James, feeling guilty, asked me to give her one last chance. Against my instincts, I agreed. But I wasn't foolish anymore. I secretly hired a professional wedding planner, Olivia, with stellar reviews and expertise in managing difficult relatives. I told James she was a surprise gift from my maid of honor, Emily, who wanted to ensure everything went smoothly. Olivia was a lifesaver, implementing strict vendor passwords and establishing herself as the sole contact besides me. "I've seen this before," she said. "Some family members overstep and make unauthorized changes. We'll lock it down." But Barbara wasn't done. 3 days before the wedding, she pulled her boldest stunt. Bypassing Olivia's safeguards, she called the venue, posing as my mother, and insisted we move the ceremony indoors because I was allegedly having panic attacks about weather ruining the day. The forecast was flawless, 72 degrees with a light breeze. The venue manager was concerned. Your mother said you were distraught about potential storms, too embarrassed to call yourself. Barbara had spun a tale about my supposed therapy sessions, medications, and even a fabricated hospital stay for anxiety. The manager considered postponing the event. That's when I uncovered something infuriating. While investigating how Barbara got through, I learned she'd been telling everyone, vendors, relatives, strangers, that she was the mastermind behind my wedding. Olivia found business cards. Barbara Thompson, premier event planner, designing memorable moments for 20 years. Barbara was using my wedding to launch a fake event planning business, presenting it as her professional debut. She'd been flashing these cards at the market, her knitting group, and church, boasting about her business and how my wedding would showcase her talents. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. James was at his best man's place, leaving me alone. In our apartment. At 1 a.m., I overheard Barbara on the phone in the guest room, likely with a church friend. "Tomorrow's going to be breathtaking," she gushed. I handled every detail: flowers, menu, music. The bride was so overwhelmed I had to take over. "I'm thinking of turning this into a full-time business. My family events have always been a hit, and this wedding will be my big break." She bragged about charging $4,500 for planning services and complained about my supposed incompetence. I stood frozen, realizing she wasn't just sabotaging my wedding. She was building a fraudulent empire on my work. I spent the night plotting my retaliation. I compiled evidence of every sabotage attempt, lie, and instance of credit stealing. I saved screenshots of her social media posts about her business, photos of her cards, and recordings of her calls. By dawn, I was ready to unravel her reputation. I called every vendor, explaining the situation with Olivia's verification. I showed proof of Barbara's unauthorized changes and impersonations. The florist was appalled. She claimed she was your official planner, and you were too anxious to decide. The caterer was livid. She spent an hour convincing us you had dietary restrictions, citing fake health issues. The DJ was mortified. She said she'd been planning events for decades and you hired her because you couldn't cope. I asked them to play along with my plan to expose her at the wedding. They were eager to help. I created a group chat with James's siblings and close friends, sharing Barbara's cards, recordings, and posts. The reaction was explosive. His sister Rachel wrote, "She did this at my baby shower, claiming she planned it all, and charging my friend for advice she stole online." His sister Hannah added, "She's been using my wedding photos on her page, saying she designed everything." His brother Liam revealed, "She charged my fiancé's mom for their anniversary party and just showed up to take credit." James's cousin mentioned Barbara charging for decor ideas copied from the internet. Even James's dad admitted he'd been skeptical when Barbara started talking about a business without credentials. I coordinated with Olivia and the family to orchestrate the exposure. We set up cameras, invited key relatives, and contacted people Barbara had scammed. On the wedding morning, I arrived early at the venue, a stunning outdoor garden with a chic indoor hall. Barbara was there at 7 a.m., dressed in an overly flashy gown, directing vendors like she owned the place. She was telling the florists where to place arrangements, instructing the caterers on setup, and advising the photographer on shots. "Barbara," I called out warmly, my phone discreetly recording. "Can we talk for a moment?" She strutted over, beaming. "Everything's perfect, isn't it? I'm so glad you let me take charge." I smiled, opening the live stream on Instagram, Facebook, and the family chat. Over 60 people were watching instantly. "Everyone, meet Barbara, James's mom," I announced. "She's been a huge help with my wedding." Barbara preened for the camera, oblivious. In fact, she's been so helpful she started a professional planning business, using my wedding as her showcase. Her smile faltered. I held up her cards. "Barbara Thompson, premier event planner. She's been telling everyone she planned my entire wedding." Barbara stammered. "I was just helping," I continued. "You changed my vendors' orders, impersonated me, and took credit for my work. You even tried to move my ceremony indoors, claiming I was having mental breakdowns." Olivia stepped forward with a folder. 16 unauthorized changes, multiple impersonations, and a fake business built on stolen work. The livestream comments erupted. James's family posted proof of her scams. Barbara tried to grab my phone. "Stop this!" I stepped back as Olivia blocked her. Barbara's been scamming people for years, taking credit for events she didn't plan, and charging for services she never provided. Olivia shared bank records, fake testimonials, and stolen photos. James, watching from the groom's suite, arrived with his groomsmen. "Mom, is this true?" he demanded. Barbara's excuses crumbled as vendors, guests, and family recorded. His sister Rachel stormed in. "You charged my friend for my shower, which I planned," Hannah added. "You used my wedding photos for your fake business." The crowd grew, relatives, early guests, friends, all witnessing Barbara's humiliation. She whispered, "I just wanted to help." But no one bought it. I announced to the live stream, now at 400 viewers, "Barbara Thompson is not a planner. She has no qualifications and profits off others' work." I gestured to security. "Barbara will sit in the back row quietly, or she'll be escorted out." James backed me up. "Mom, sit down. We'll talk after the honeymoon." His dad, shocked, added, "How could you lie like this?" The wedding was flawless. My coral flowers, perfect menu, and curated playlist. James and I exchanged heartfelt vows about trust and honesty. At the reception, I thanked Olivia, the vendors, and James's family for supporting the truth. Looking at Barbara, I said, "Marriage is about trust and respecting each other's work. I'm grateful for a family that values that." The applause was deafening. During our Greece honeymoon, the live stream went viral. Barbara's fake business was exposed across local forums and news outlets. Her church friends demanded refunds. Neighbors considered legal action. When we returned, Barbara had deactivated her social media and stopped attending events. James's dad thanked me privately. She needed to be stopped. I suspected her lies, but didn't know the extent. 6 months later, Barbara offered a half-hearted apology at a tense family dinner. "I got carried away trying to help," she mumbled. I replied, "You sabotaged my wedding, impersonated me, and built a scam on stolen work. That's not help. It's fraud." She never fully admitted fault but stopped taking credit for others' events. The family now enforces a no Barbara policy for planning. Last month, James's youngest sister got engaged. At her party, someone teased, "Barbara, planning this one too?" The room froze. Barbara glanced at me and muttered, "No, she'll do fine herself." It was the closest she'd come to admitting guilt. 2 years into our marriage, my wedding photos, planned entirely by me, adorn our home. Barbara sometimes stares at them, perhaps with regret. Her reputation never recovered. She's known, locally, as the woman who tried to steal her daughter-in-law's wedding. The live stream still circulates, a reminder that the best celebrations come from genuine effort, not lies. I learned to stand up for my work, and our marriage is stronger for it. Sometimes the best revenge is exposing the truth.